Welcome to Coach Dave Academy. My name is Suellio Almeida, and we're gonna see my lap with the Porsche Cup at Imola today. We're gonna see the entire lap, and then we're gonna talk about corner by corner. All right, now going into this first corner, you already see that the braking zone is a little bit tricky. It's a little kink right before the actual corner, and it's a very common mistake to actually, well, be afraid of being on that corner like that. On braking here, you start braking, there is a white line going to the left, and because of that, if you just like go parallel to the white line, by the time you start braking, you go straight. So what do we do instead? We already turn in a little bit and start braking, but because of that, the problem is we go too much, and then we start braking, and we find ourselves more or less here. What do we want to do instead is we want to turn in a little bit. You see, I'm turning before I start braking. I'm turning before I start braking. Okay, now I'm starting to brake. And as you can see from here, where am I going to end up by the time we turn in? There you go, on the very limit. So I'm braking on a straight line, but I'm aligning the car to be very precisely on the very edge here on the white line, almost touching the grass, to have the best line possible. This is incredibly important. Then you trail brake to this first apex. You want to turn as much as possible here. It's okay to get a little bit of, well, not a little bit, as you can see, I'm actually using a lot of the curving side. So it's okay to do that. Just make sure that sometimes it's gonna bounce weird. So I have to really sometimes allow the car to settle after the bouncing, because whenever the inside tires are bouncing, you don't have that grip for that fraction of a second. So as it's flying, it's not gripping. Here we turn in, we're gonna hit again, boom, then it bounces a little bit, you wait for it to settle. You need to have light hands by the time you're on top of curbs like that. When the car starts bouncing, if you have very grippy hands, it's very easy to spin, so be careful with that. And then we change direction quite quick here. We really want to aim to hit that little curb on the inside, the black and yellow curb, and same thing, we're gonna hit the curb, it's gonna bounce a little bit, you wait for it to settle, and then back on power. And then here you can use all this green. Just make sure that you come back and don't use too much of that grass, because if you have the center of the car on that grass, you get an off track. Then we go for the next corner. This is also tricky. It's very easy to overslow this first corner. What you really want to do here is cut this first apex. You brake not too hard, and you already immediately trail brake. You aim to cut as much as you can on this inside here. We really want to aim to use all of this, well, the second curve. As you can see, I'm actually missing the first one, and the second one we want to hit as much as possible, because we want to have the car more to the left at this point here, so that we can finally have the best line possible for this one. And same thing here, you can use a little bit of this, just be careful. You have to experiment how much you're going to use. Sometimes if you use too much, you get the car to bounce a little bit too much. As you can see here in my example, it didn't bounce too much, so it was pretty good. And then on the way to the exit here, you don't want to put all four tires on the green. You want to have the right tires still on the curb, otherwise you will get an off track. Then early, you already have to bring the car to prepare the braking zone for the hairpin. You don't want to take a nap in between. And then I'm using the access road as a braking reference here. So by the time we get on the access road, start braking, and then quite late turn in, and very patient with the trail braking, still trail braking, still trail braking, still trail braking, still trail braking, going for a late apex because on the exit there's a slight crest. We don't have that much grip, so we really want to hit the apex very late. Let's see from the outside. There you go. It really feels like it's extremely late because this exit here, there is not a lot of grip. So what you want to do is you want to, you see, wait. Okay, now you start turning in, and finally you get on the inside here and get back on power and allow the car to go all the way to the outside. Same thing, don't put all the four tires on the green. What you want to do is have the left tires on the curb. That is enough for not getting off track. And then for the next corner, I'm going to be using the 50 as a braking reference, although I'm not braking at the 50. If you see here, I'm already starting to brake around here. Maximum pressure is pretty close to the 50, but it's a little bit before the 50. And then we want to trail brake patiently. And here you have two options. You can use the curb or you can use the white line. If you use the white line, it is actually a little bit more grippy because this curb here is off camber, so it kind of pushes the car away a little bit. So I like to use a little bit of the curb, but mostly really the inside white line, and then get back on power. Light hands, allow the car is going to want to go to the outside when you get back on power. Just make sure, again, as always, don't put all four tires on the green. Then for this corner here, pretty tricky. What you want to do, again, extremely important to have super light hands. So you turn in, you brake, and then you start turning in. You already trail brake and you have extremely light hands. You don't force too much. Allow the car to drift to the left. And then when the car stabilizes a little bit here, we start braking again. So now we're increasing the brakes and less steering, more brakes, less steering. And then we start the process again. Less brakes, more steering, less brakes, more steering, less brakes, more steering. And then you really want to get on power by the time you attack the curb. So basically, if you get back on power, by the time the car is attacking the curb, you lift the front a little bit and you minimize the impact against the curb, which makes the car a little bit more stable. And then on the exit here, just make sure, same thing, don't put all the tires on the green, and it's gonna be good. And then for the chicane, I'm braking more or less at the 75. I would say actually 60, closer to the 50. And then we really want to be patient, turn in, and want to get as much rotation as possible with the center of the car, not using the brown. If you get the center of the car on the brown curb, you actually get an off track. And then change direction quite quick, still trail braking, and again, just making sure that you don't have the center of the car on the brown. And then here, what I do is I like to upshift early to third gear to have a little bit more control. This entire exit here is very bouncy. So if you get like on the second gear, sometimes the car may understeer, sometimes it may give you a little bit too much power and you end up spinning or losing the rear. So on third gear, you kind of prevent that from happening, and you still get a pretty good exit, pretty good power. Actually, even on third gear, you have to kind of control a little bit the throttle. So second gear, I would say, is a no-go here. And then absolutely the same thing, just don't put the four tires on the green on the exit so you can prevent yourself from getting off track. For the penultimate corner, make sure you stay to the left here until the very last moment, and then you start turning to the right so you can align the car to the straight line after this little kink here. It's very important to do that because we're going to start braking pretty much as soon as these lines, the line and the curb here, get straight. You already want to brake. It's very, very easy to end up losing the braking here because right after the kink, we already should start braking pretty hard. Then we brake for a long time. We wait for the car to stop. We wait for the car to stop. We wait for the car to stop. And then we start turning in, aiming for the green on the inside here. As you can see, I can use a little bit more than that. And then get back on power and allow the car to go all the way to the green without using the four tires on the green. But it's very important to have the inside tire, which means the left tires in this corner on the curb. If you're using less than that, you're losing track usage and you're pretty much losing time. Then you stay there, you stay there, you stay there until the last moment, and then finally you start turning in for the last one. A little bit of correction there with the bouncing, and then aiming for the green. Same thing here. I actually could use a little bit more than that. I kind of missed that because of the bouncing there. And then back on power and allow the car to go all the way to the outside using the light hands technique. Again, light hands, light hands. Allow the force feedback to help you on these exits. This car is very oversteery on power. And then absolutely the same thing on the exit. Don't use all the 4 tires on the green. So there you go. It's a pretty regular lap, not a great lap, but as you can see, lap time's 44.2. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next week. Bye!